The world watched with bated breath as Donald Trump took the oath of office in 2017. It was a moment that signaled not just a change in leadership for the United States, but a potential shift in the global political landscape. The atmosphere was charged with anticipation and uncertainty, as people from all corners of the globe speculated on what this new era would bring. The inauguration was more than a ceremonial event. It was a harbinger of the profound changes that were to come. His presidency ushered in a period of significant change in global politics. From the outset, Trump's unconventional approach to diplomacy and governance set the stage for a series of unprecedented events. His America First policy aimed to prioritize the interests of the United States, often at the expense of long-standing international alliances and agreements. This approach was both lauded and criticized, as it sought to redefine America's role on the world stage. The ripple effects of his policies were felt far and wide, influencing global political dynamics in ways that were both predictable and unexpected. Nowhere was this felt more acutely than in the relationship between the United States, China, and India. These three nations, each a powerhouse in its own right, found their interactions reshaped by Trump's policies. The United States' stance towards China became increasingly confrontational, while its relationship with India grew warmer. This triad of nations became a focal point in the shifting global order, with each country navigating the complexities of their newfound dynamics. The balance of power was in flux, and the world watched closely as these relationships evolved. Trump's approach to China was marked by confrontation, particularly on trade. The trade war between the two economic giants saw tariffs and counter-tariffs being imposed, affecting global markets and supply chains. This aggressive stance was intended to address what Trump perceived as unfair trade practices by China, but it also led to increased tensions and economic uncertainty. The impact of this trade war was felt not just in the United States and China, but across the globe, as countries and businesses adjusted to the new economic realities. Conversely, he extended a hand of friendship towards India, recognizing its growing importance on the world stage. The relationship between the United States and India flourished under Trump's administration, with both countries seeking to strengthen their strategic and economic ties. This partnership was seen as a counterbalance to China's rising influence, and it opened up new avenues for cooperation in areas such as defense, technology, and trade. The camaraderie between Trump and Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi was emblematic of this new chapter in U.S.-India relations. This dynamic has had profound implications for the global balance of power, creating both opportunities and challenges for all involved. The shifting alliances and rivalries have led to a more complex and multipolar world, where traditional power structures are being questioned and redefined. Countries are now navigating a landscape where old certainties no longer hold, and new strategies are required to maintain influence and stability. The global power balance is in a state of flux, and the actions of the United States, China, and India are central to this ongoing transformation. Trump's presidency has been a subject of intense debate and analysis, with opinions sharply divided on his impact. Supporters argue that his bold approach was necessary to shake up a stagnant political system and address long-standing issues. Critics, on the other hand, contend that his policies were reckless and damaging, both domestically and internationally. The debates surrounding his presidency are reflective of the broader divisions within society, as people grapple with the implications of his time in office. Scholars, analysts, and commentators continue to dissect his legacy, seeking to understand the full extent of his influence on global politics. Some argue that his policies have damaged America's global standing and alienated key allies. The withdrawal from international agreements, such as the Paris Climate Accord and the Iran nuclear deal, was seen by many as a retreat from global leadership. These actions led to criticism from traditional allies who felt abandoned and uncertain about the future of their partnerships with the United States. The protests and backlash against Trump's policies were a testament to the deep divisions and controversies that marked his presidency. Others contend that he has been a much-needed disruptor, challenging the status quo and putting America's interests first. His supporters believe that his unorthodox methods were necessary to address issues that had been ignored for too long. They argue that his focus on national sovereignty and economic protectionism was a refreshing change from the globalist policies of previous administrations. For many, Trump represented a break from the past and a new direction for the country. one that prioritized the needs and concerns of ordinary Americans. Regardless of one's perspective, there is no doubt that Trump has left an indelible mark on global politics, particularly in the Asia-Pacific region. His policies and actions have reshaped the geopolitical landscape, influencing the strategies and decisions of countries around the world. The Asia-Pacific region, in particular, has been a focal point of his foreign policy, with significant implications for regional stability and security. As the world continues to navigate the complexities of this new era, the legacy of Trump's presidency will be felt for years to come, shaping the future of global politics in ways that are still unfolding. One of the defining features of Trump's presidency was his trade war with China. This conflict was not just a series of economic measures, but a strategic move that aimed to reshape the global economic landscape. Trump's administration believed that China had been exploiting the United States through unfair trade practices, intellectual property theft, and currency manipulation. These accusations were not new, but Trump's approach to addressing them was unprecedented. This economic conflict, sparked by Trump's belief that China was engaging in unfair trade practices, had far-reaching consequences. The trade war began with the imposition of tariffs on Chinese goods, which quickly escalated into a tit-for-tat exchange of tariffs between the two largest economies in the world. The impact of these measures was felt globally, affecting markets, businesses, and consumers alike. The imposition of tariffs on billions of dollars worth of goods disrupted global supply chains. Companies that relied on Chinese manufacturing found themselves scrambling to find alternative suppliers or absorb the increased costs. This disruption was not limited to the United States and China. It rippled through economies worldwide, highlighting the interconnected nature of modern trade, and led to increased costs for businesses and consumers. Prices for everyday goods, from electronics to clothing, saw noticeable hikes. Businesses faced higher production costs, which were often passed on to consumers. This inflationary pressure added to the economic strain already felt by many households, particularly those with lower incomes. While the trade war did force China to make some concessions, such as agreeing to purchase more American agricultural products and making changes to its intellectual property laws, these victories came at a significant cost. The negotiations were tense and protracted, with both sides suffering economic losses. It also had negative repercussions for the U.S. economy. American farmers, in particular, were hard hit by the loss of one of their biggest markets. Many faced financial ruin, leading to increased government subsidies to keep them afloat. Manufacturing sectors also suffered, with some companies relocating production overseas to avoid tariffs, resulting in job losses at home. The trade war was a clear manifestation of Trump's America First policy. This policy aimed to prioritize American interests in all aspects of governance, from immigration to trade. Trump argued that previous administrations had allowed other countries, particularly China, to take advantage of the United States, leading to a decline in American manufacturing and job losses. He argued that China had been taking advantage of the U.S. for too long, engaging in practices that undermined American industries. By imposing tariffs, Trump aimed to level the playing field and encourage companies to bring manufacturing back to the United States. This, he believed, would restore American jobs and strengthen the economy, costing American jobs and undermining U.S. competitiveness. The administration's stance was that by addressing these imbalances, the U.S. could regain its competitive edge. However, critics argued that the tariffs were a blunt instrument that caused more harm than good, leading to higher costs for businesses and consumers without necessarily achieving the desired outcomes. His solution was to impose tariffs, which he believed would protect American businesses and workers. These tariffs were intended to make Chinese goods more expensive, thereby encouraging consumers and businesses to buy American-made products. The hope was that this would lead to a resurgence in American manufacturing and job creation. However, the trade war also exposed the interconnectedness of the global economy. The tariffs not only affected the U.S. and China, but also had ripple effects across the world. Countries that were part of the global supply chain found themselves caught in the crossfire, with their own economies suffering as a result, demonstrating that actions taken by one country can have ripple effects around the world. The trade war underscored the complexity of global trade and the challenges of implementing policies that can have far-reaching and often unintended consequences. It highlighted the need for careful consideration and international cooperation in addressing trade issues, rather than unilateral actions that can lead to economic instability. While Trump's relationship with China soured, it was a different story with India. The dynamics between the United States and China became increasingly strained during Trump's tenure, marked by trade wars, tariffs, and mutual distrust. However, amidst this tension, a new chapter was being written in the annals of international diplomacy. His relationship with India flourished, marked by mutual respect and shared strategic interests. The camaraderie between Trump and Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi was evident in their numerous public appearances and joint statements. They often spoke of a shared vision for the future, one that included robust economic ties and a united front against common threats. Trump saw India as a natural ally in his efforts to counter China's growing influence. This was not just a political maneuver, but a strategic alignment of two of the world's largest democracies. The US and India found common ground in their desire to maintain regional stability and promote democratic values. He cultivated close ties with Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi, fostering a relationship that went beyond mere diplomacy. Their interactions were characterized by warmth and a genuine sense of partnership. This was a significant departure from the often transactional nature of international relations. The two leaders shared a warm personal rapport, which translated into tangible benefits for both nations. Their meetings were often punctuated by moments of levity and mutual admiration, setting a positive tone for bilateral relations. This personal connection played a crucial role in advancing their shared agenda. Under Trump, the US and India strengthened their strategic partnership, particularly in the areas of defense and security. Joint military exercises became more frequent, and there was a notable increase in defense trade between the two countries. This collaboration was aimed at enhancing their collective capabilities to address regional threats. India welcomed the Trump administration's focus on the Indo-Pacific region, a critical area for global trade and security. The Indo-Pacific strategy underscored the importance of a free and open maritime domain, where international laws are respected and no single nation dominates. The commitment to working with partners like India to maintain a free and open Indo-Pacific was a cornerstone of this strategy. This approach was seen as a counterbalance to China's assertive actions in the South China Sea and beyond. The US and India, along with other regional allies, aimed to ensure that the Indo-Pacific remained a region of peace and prosperity. India also saw the US as a valuable partner in its own efforts to counter terrorism and promote economic growth. The two countries collaborated on various counterterrorism initiatives, sharing intelligence and best practices. Additionally, economic ties were bolstered through trade agreements and investments, benefiting both nations' economies. The strengthening of US-India ties under Trump was seen by many as a positive development, particularly in light of China's increasingly assertive behavior in the region. This partnership was not just about countering a common adversary, but also about building a future based on shared values and mutual respect. The legacy of this strategic partnership continues to influence the geopolitical landscape, shaping the policies and alliances of both nations. Section 4. Military maneuvering tensions rise in the Indo-Pacific. Trump's presidency coincided with a period of heightened military tensions in the Indo-Pacific region. China's growing military assertiveness, particularly in the South China Sea, raised concerns among its neighbors and the United States. In response, the U.S. increased its military presence in the region and conducted freedom of navigation operations to challenge China's expansive maritime claims. The South China Sea emerged as a potential flashpoint in the U.S.-China rivalry. China claims sovereignty over almost the entire South China Sea, despite overlapping claims by several Southeast Asian countries. The U.S., while not taking a position on the sovereignty disputes, insists on freedom of navigation and overflight in the South China Sea, a vital waterway for global trade. Section 5. The Taiwan Question, a flashpoint in U.S.-China relations. The Taiwan issue remained a sensitive topic in U.S.-China relations during Trump's presidency. China views Taiwan as a breakaway province and has vowed to reunify it with the mainland, by force if necessary. The U.S., while officially adhering to the One China policy, has committed to providing Taiwan with the means to defend itself. Trump's decision to approve arms sales to Taiwan and increase high-level contacts with Taipei angered Beijing. China viewed these moves as a violation of the One China policy and a provocation. the Taiwan issue remains a potential flashpoint in U.S.-China relations, and any miscalculation could have serious consequences for regional stability.